So I doubt any Liverpool fan is feeling much better in the 24 hours after a fourth consecutive defeat, particularly because that came to the bitter rivals in Manchester United and at Anfield as well. But of course, it is the manager's job to not only iron out the negatives, and there are plenty of those if we're being honest, but also to find the positives and build on them. And of course, it might not feel like it at the moment, but there are also plenty of those as well, even in this performance and really, really disappointing defeat. And curiously, I kind of think there's a positive from yesterday that actually could improve the negatives going forward as well. So they could kind of kill two birds with one stone in terms of implementing this going forward. And I am, of course, talking about a certain Federico Chiesa, who came on as a substitute and assisted Cody Gakpo's goal, which set Liverpool up to potentially go on and win the game. Unfortunately, of course, it didn't work out that way, but he gave them a chance with his contributions, which of course has been a little bit of a theme for Liverpool so far this season. Of course, it has been obvious for a while, really, that he's been making an impact. So I wanted to kind of look into the numbers behind that and kind of work out exactly what he's doing for Liverpool so far this season, but also, has he been a little bit lucky? Is he just running hot on certain aspects? And whether he can kind of keep this up if he is given more minutes. Now, I'll start with the fact that he has 5 goals and assists combined so far this season, so 5 goal contributions, which only Mohamed Salah and Hugo Ekitike with 6 apiece have beaten. Gakpo has also got 5, but then beyond that, you go down into lower numbers. So he's right up there in terms of goals and assists amongst his fellow attackers so far this season. He's got more than Alexander Isak, for example, who's only got 2. Florian Wirtz has just got the 1. So these are just really, really good numbers. And I think what's more impressive about them is the rate at which he's providing these numbers, because he's only played 177 minutes. Of course, he isn't particularly favoured by the manager unless it's to come off the bench. And so to be putting up these numbers is pretty remarkable. And so then when you consider the fact he's only had 177 minutes on the pitch and you look at goal contributions per 90 minutes, it's pretty remarkable, really. So I'm going to bring up a graph here that compares him to his fellow Liverpool attackers so far this season. And you are reading that right. It's 2.5, 2.5 goal contributions per 90 minutes. I mean, that is absolutely ludicrous, to be honest. I mean, you see there, Rio Engamoa is next with 0.91. He's also another one who's not had a huge amount of minutes. So it just shows you can still get on the pitch and not have a lot of minutes. And maybe, he's obviously scored against Newcastle, but his numbers are nowhere near Chiesa, even despite that. And then, of course, you move into the ones who've played more regularly, which is Ekitike with 0.87, Salah 0.59. But Chiesa is just on a different planet in terms of that, isn't he? So it just shows you how outstanding he's making the most of the minutes he's being given, that's for sure. So I suppose the next question after that, which I posed earlier in the video, really is, what do those underlying numbers look like? Is he just being a bit lucky, or, is he just in the right place at the right time? Is it just because he's coming on when Liverpool are chasing the games? Well, in terms of getting goals, I'd say he hasn't really been lucky at all. I mean, if you look at this graphic here that I'll show you, it shows he's averaging more shots per 90 than any other Liverpool player this season. I think it's always a good bet when you're looking at analytics to say the people who get a lot of shots, the people who get themselves into positions to take shots, they tend to score an awful lot of goals. That is just kind of a truism. It's why we and I think Liverpool kind of stuck with Darwin Núñez for so long, because typically it's been the case that unless you are a historically bad finisher, which Darwin Núñez was, that if you get a lot of shots, then you will score a lot of goals. So it just shows you that he's getting goals there, and he's largely deserving to, because he's getting off more shots than any of his teammates whenever he gets on the pitch. Now, I will say that graphic doesn't involve the League Cup, because of where I get the graphics from and how the statistics that are involved in that. But even when you add the League Cup back in, which of course he played that full game against Southampton, he's still leading in that regard in terms of shots. So I've got this is all competitions from FBref, 1.53 shots per 90, and you think the next best there is Isak with 1.18, Ekitike 1.01, and Salah 0.88. So it just shows you he is a shot getter whenever he gets on the pitch. Even the fact he played the full game in that League Cup fixture doesn't drag him down. He's still the best shot getter at the club per 90 minutes. So it really does just show you that he's very, very good at that. And I think that's a quality, actually, I've pointed out about Chiesa over a long period of time now. That was the case even in his debut season at the club, which was pretty disappointing from a personal point of view. But I think, you know, he consistently showed that he had an ability to get shots, and he's proven that again this season. And he's also getting the goals to go with it. Now, in terms of setting goals up, now he does have 3 assists, so it's 2 goals and 3 assists is the makeup of his 5 goal contributions this season. And I would say to get that from 0.9 expected assisted goals, he is running quite hot on that side of things. So 3 goals from 0.9 expected assisted goals. Now Gakpo, for a good comparison, he's got 2 assists from 2.9 expected assisted goals. So it should show you maybe a little bit of element of good fortune there. Maybe Gakpo is being a little bit unlucky with people not finishing off the chances he creates, whereas everything Chiesa creates seems to turn into a goal. Although I would add into that you consider he's only got 0.9 expected assisted goals, and yet in that involved is the one he sets up for Ekitike to tap in against Southampton into an empty net. I mean, maybe he's being a bit undersold on the expected assisted goals there, because that was an completely unmissable chance. I'd say the one he sets up for Gakpo against Manchester United, I mean, Gakpo tried his best to miss it, but that was an unbelievable opportunity that, again, you would say it's past the keeper, it's basically unmissable from there. So I'd say those numbers, I think expected assists, expected assisted goals sometimes can be a bit cloudy, that data. And maybe it leans towards you being on the pitch more frequently because you just get an accumulation of small expected assisted goals adding up. And I think that's what's maybe happening with Gakpo there. So the numbers there suggest he's running hot, but I always say, got to combine that with the eye test and use your knowledge of what you've seen. And I think, you know, for me, I just think Chiesa seems to be a player who's on the pitch, who creates danger. He adds, you know, threat to the pitch. He brings other players into play, and he allows them to get into goal scoring positions. And I mean, like I say, a couple of those assists have been absolute tap-ins, really. So worth remembering that, really, even if it looks on the statistics side of things that he's running a little bit hot. And as I say, in terms of getting others into position to add danger, I think there's another graphic I've got for you here, really, that kind of underlines that. Now, this is, just to explain what you're seeing here, is expected threat assist. So it's a metric that's calculated by assigning the expected threat value of a player action to the player making the previous action. So how much he's setting up his teammate to provide expected threat. So it kind of gives you a good idea of kind of who's the pass before the pass that creates the goal, that kind of thing. So I think it's a really useful measure, and again, just shows you that, again, Chiesa, and this is per 90 minutes, by the way, this graphic, he just puts Liverpool in more dangerous positions. He puts his teammates in more dangerous positions. He puts the ball in more dangerous positions whenever he gets on the pitch. And I think, you know, you could see that time and time again when he came on against Manchester United. He almost looked like the most threatening player again. And this has just been a consistent theme, you know, in his Liverpool career, really, is that Liverpool look more dangerous in attack whenever he's on the pitch. And I think the Manchester United game is a perfect example of that. But there have been many, many more examples of that throughout this season and the season that preceded it. And another thing I want to mention here when I'm praising him in the data, but it's also the thing that we're all seeing with our eyes, and it's the reason that supporters absolutely love Federico Chiesa, and that, of course, is his ridiculous work rate that he's got. Now, you know, you saw it again on Sunday, charging all over the pitch, closing down, but he's done that every time he's been given a chance to get on the pitch. And then you think of kind of his first assist that he gets against Southampton. He's charging down the defence. He's getting in there to nick the ball. And again, by the way, I'm talking about his expected assisted goals. I mean, again, that's another one he's set up for an absolute tap-in for Alexander Isak. So maybe he's being kind of underrated in that regard. But I think primarily what I want to talk about that goal for is because it's work rate. He charged down, he closed down, he created that opportunity himself purely through work rate. And that's definitely something you see from him. And it is supported in the data as well. So if you have a look here, you can see this is defensive work rate on a per 90 basis. So this is aerial duels, fouls, interceptions, tackles, clearances. And you can see he is the highest rated forward in Liverpool's squad this season on a per 90 basis for this, bar Gakpo. And I would say about Gakpo, he's kind of boosted in these numbers here by aerial duels, which of course we know Liverpool will play the diagonal to him quite frequently. So he is involved in those back post aerial duels. So just shows you that Chiesa, whenever he comes on the pitch, he's not boosted by those diagonals. He is involved in getting fouls or fouling or interceptions or tackles or clearances. He really gets involved in kind of the dirty work that Liverpool will absolutely need the forwards to do. So I guess really it kind of summarises that, he's grafting, he's scoring, he's creating a pretty much a better rate than a lot of the forwards that are in the team at the moment. And you kind of ask yourself the question, really, well, what more could you want as a manager? And I think you've got to ask, okay, Slot is seeing all this, we're all seeing this, the underlying numbers support that this is very good. It is very good on a basic level. That, you know, the numbers primarily are very good in terms of goals and assists. So you've surely got to get a player who's providing this into the team somehow. I guess the biggest question is kind of where do you use him? But to be honest, I think there's a serious case to be made that there are a couple of spots that should maybe be opening up to him in the team, or you know, should be routes into the starting 11 for him. I mean, the starting point has got to be really Mohamed Salah's form. And, you know, I said this really, I don't want to be overly critical of Mohamed Salah. He can always make you look absolutely stupid, and I'm sure he will score an awful lot of goals this season, but you have to admit that his form at the moment, and it's over a fairly prolonged period, has just not been very good, hasn't it? It's kind of tough to justify him continuing to start at least every game. I know why you won't want to pull him out too long if you Slot, because it's going to turn at some point and you don't want to miss out on the game that happens. But I think for him starting every game and being guaranteed to do so, I just don't think you can justify that on his form at the moment. And it seems that the manager, he really does like Jeremy Frimpong as his main replacement for Salah, but I still think Frimpong is, you know, he's a wing back more than a kind of out and out winger, and his peak of his powers are the best performances you'll see from him on that right wing. They won't really be near a Salah level, will they? Because he is more kind of that, you know, he's a half a defender, half a forward, isn't he? Whereas Chiesa, he is a proper forward. He gets shots off, he gets assists, he puts the ball into more dangerous areas for his colleagues. So he has all the qualities of a forward that you want from someone there. So I think there's a real case for him to come in for some games for Mohamed Salah, which, by the way, was the whole purpose of Liverpool signing him in the first place, was to offer better cover down that right-hand side. So I would quite like to see that. And I guess on the other side as well, if you can't get him in for Mo Salah, if the manager feels he has to stick with Salah till it turns for him, I would still say that Cody Gakpo is making a case that maybe he could be helped out a little bit. I know he scored in his last two. He hit the post 3 times against Manchester United, but you still almost feel like he's not playing that well at times. And you know, he missed a really, really golden opportunity in the game against United yesterday. And, you know, like I say, he almost kind of tried his best to miss the goal that he got. And I think with Gakpo playing an awful lot of football at the moment, and, you know, you had that rotation with Diaz, didn't you, last season that worked. It doesn't seem that Ngamoa at the moment, and maybe this will change later in the season, but right now is completely trusted to come in, because I think if he was, then we would have maybe seen Ngamoa on at the hour mark, and, you know, say it was Diaz on the bench, we would have seen that in that game on Sunday, wouldn't we? But we didn't see that with Ngamoa. So again, Chiesa, he can definitely play on the right, but he can 100% play off the left as well. He's very comfortable in that position. So is there not a case for him to be used there from time to time? And I think, you know, it kind of comes back to, I think that I remember Arne Slot saying in a recent embargoed section, and I'm not sure whether these quotes got used in the end, but I think they're really, really interesting. He was talking about the size of Liverpool's squad, and he said, we've got 20 to 21 players where some other teams we're in competition with are on 24, 25, 26. But that's the choice we make, because I believe that every player needs to have perspective of development or playing time. So basically, the best way to, you know, he wants a smaller squad because he needs every player to believe that if they train at the right level, if they perform when they are called upon, that they will be put into the starting 11 and they will get an opportunity to bring their performances on a consistent basis. Now, if Arne Slot truly believes that, then for me, what more could Federico Chiesa be doing than making a goal or assist pretty much every time he's on the pitch? I mean, 2.5 goal contributions per 90. I really have to emphasise how ridiculous that is, even with him being on limited minutes. To have got 5 goal contributions so far this season is really remarkable, really. And one thing I would always kind of defend Arne Slot over, and I speak about this an awful lot as well, is that, look, the manager sees the players a lot more frequently than we do. And so he sees them in training, he sees how everybody's getting on, and he's got decisions to make on that. We only see the 90 minutes, or in this case, the 177 minutes, and we might think Chiesa's absolutely unbelievable, you've got to use him, but he might be really, really poor in training and therefore doesn't justify coming in to replace Salah because Salah trains better than him every week. So maybe that is the case, and I totally accept that, and it's so easy for me from the outside to make these judgments and make these big calls that Chiesa should replace Gakpo, should replace Salah, should be in the starting 11. But as much as training is important, and I'm sure that, you know, the manager's making these decisions for a reason, and that leaving someone like Salah out would feel mad and really, really difficult for him to do. This guy he just can't stop contributing goals and assists whenever he touches the pitch. And for a team like Liverpool that has been on the run they have recently, which is I think it's 7.4 expected goals. They've only scored 3 goals from that, and across the last 4 games on an awful finishing run. You know, they don't look entirely convincing at times in the final third. You've got someone like Salah missing chances, which you never see. You've got Gakpo scoring, but also missing absolute sitters alongside that. Surely there's a really strong case that, you know, even if he's not training that well, you just get him in, because he will do the job for you, and he brings the defensive work as well. So he'll never let his fullback down that side. He'll bring expected threat. He'll get shots off consistently. I just think the case is too strong at the moment to be keeping him out of the starting 11. And I think there are opportunities to do that, by the way. I think, of course, there's the midweek trip to Eintracht Frankfurt where, you know, is this the time to maybe give Mohamed Salah the rest he might need to kind of get him going again? I'm not sure. But it feels to me like the case is there. And if there are going to be changes in the forward line, for me, Chiesa has to be the next cab off the rank, because the manager said it himself. He has to have perspective of playing time, and all the players have to feel that. Well, Chiesa couldn't be doing much more to get it, could he? So I would really like to see his performances rewarded with some more playing time. And I think if he gets that, we'll see those goals and assists continue to follow, because that has been the theme of the season for him on an individual basis. So, going to wrap it up there anyway. Do let me know your thoughts on that. Do you want to see more of Chiesa? Where do you want to see him? In fact, I kind of quite like if Chiesa comes in, what's your starting 11 look like at the moment, given everybody's form? How do you think Liverpool, what's the starting 11 for Frankfurt that gets them out of this little slump that they're in? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on that, and Chiesa in general. And of course, as usual, if you can click that like button, massively appreciate that, because it gets the video out to more people, and views are back up now. So thank you everyone for watching again, even though it's, you know, when Liverpool are losing 4 on the bounce, that's really, really disappointing, isn't it? So, but if you can keep clicking that like button, if you can subscribe, if you're new to the videos as well, I would massively appreciate that. And I'll see you guys very soon.